Welcome back, guys, to another Cities Skylines 2 episode. Today, let's be real. Sometimes the simulation in Cities Skylines maybe feels a little bit of like a black box. We don't know what's going on. Why is there no any demand? Why are the roads randomly empty for some reason like they are now? Today we're going over maybe the top 5 mods that I've kind of found that maybe are a little underutilized and will help out with your city and maybe just the overall kind of look and feel of how things are going in your city. All right, we are starting out with the first one is Loom. I'll show a little screen here of where we can get it from the mod manager. If you just search for Loom, there you have it. So if you ever kind of stared at the demand bars and just been like, why are they moving? Or why do I have a demand for this? I don't know. Anyway, this mod is very useful in the fact that it appears up here in the Loom, and it gives you all these different options that you can pick from. You got just straight demographics, kind of an educated, employment, all sorts of things in here. You can go by different groups. You can also go by the districts. You can say this district has so many such and such people. But this is kind of like your overall demand. It's a little bit more intense as to some of the other sections that have this same sort of thing, but it really kind of narrows out exactly what age your Sims are. So that's kind of your first demographic. You can refresh your data from here as well. Next, we kind of have the workforce. Again, everything has a layer of either all citywide or you can pick individual district. But this is essentially your workforce distribution by education levels. So as you can see here, a fair amount of people. I don't really have many people uneducated, I guess. Again, I only have about 6,300 people in here. It's a work in progress. It works pretty well in most cases here. But again, you can then click into here and you can say how many of these educated people are workers, or if they're unemployed, or maybe they go outside the city to go work somewhere else, or they're homeless. So it's a very well broken down bit of the workforce there. You also have workplaces, and I can go on and on about all this. This really is for just a massive data upgrade for anybody who's really seriously looking to get into it. But it also is a very helpful tool just to kind of see where your city lies in the fact of demand, as well as who's working where, what the workplaces are. This kind of gives you an overall view of how the demand is kind of split out right now. Obviously I have 100% of office because my building occupancy is pretty much empty, so that raises it by a lot. There's quite a lot of local demand, as well as there's a decent amount of availability for high skilled laborers. And then the taxes also bring it down quite a bit. I am finally getting some local demand for commercial. That's been about as low as it's been pretty much the whole time I put that big shopping center in there. Probably because the Target took up all my jobs. But yeah, there's finally some building occupancy as well that's kind of losing it because I guess they're slowly building in the commercial that I did put in. But yeah, this also brings out, you can do demand straight from your industrial area, as well as office demand. Shows you any buildings that are empty, as well as any like property-less companies, so they don't exist, or they exist but they don't have the building to operate from, which is an interesting dilemma to have. But again, you also have this whole companies list of industries. You can also I believe do that for commercial as well, but it kind of tells you exactly what they're doing, and if they're profitable, you can sort by ones that aren't profitable. You can kind of figure out why they're not profitable and kind of go through the whole spiel with that. Yeah, anyway, you got companies for commercial as well, and you can pick up the demand just like this one to kind of figure out what's going on. It does take a few seconds to upload or to kind of refresh, so if it shows zeros right away, it's trying to refresh the data, so no big deal there. You just got to give it a second or two, and then it'll refresh it. So anyway, you can tell why my commercial demand is quite low. I mean, there's currently 4 empty buildings, so it is slowly building the buildings, but I have the tax rate extremely low. I have it at 2% right now, but essentially the production capacity is, so essentially anything over 100% indicates there's an oversupply with that, which reduces demand. So that's why this is so low as it is. But yeah, that's a decent overview of the Loom. It just gives a lot more information. Very useful tool. it just, yeah, it kind of tells you what exactly is going on, what you really need to be building, what you really need to be focusing on. We have a lot of demand for pretty much everything. Everything's kind of just slowly going up just because we keep getting more people in here. We have an extra 50 an hour pretty much. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. All right, this is the next one. It's called Realistic Trips. It's not overly utilized too much, but it overhauls travel behavior to follow like a weekly schedule, much more in line with kind of how normal life works, and also kind of slow down time to make the day feel a little longer without affecting kind of the simulation speed. You can you'll see actual morning and evening rush hours depending on how you have it set up. And your citizens will significantly prefer public transport over cars if you set it up. So this is kind of like the ultimate mod to make your city feel more like living and a breathing place. It just kind of helps out with traffic in general and people walking around, people taking public transport. This one, you do have to go from the settings menu. So let's jump over there. So it's down here in the realistic trips. So again, you kind of just set it to kind of a standard if you want. I will probably end up going with the United States of America, since that's where I'm from. So we'll go ahead and confirm that. And essentially, you can just pick. So this is for kind of work time, work hours. But again, like this one is letting them, like how much of an adjustment between early and late do they go to work, sort of thing. You can kind of change here, like what the evening and night work shifts are, just percentage wise of the kind of the total working population. You also have kind of like what offices, commercial industry, kind of what those shifts are by work type as well, the non-day shifts. And you can also say like what are the chances that somebody works from home today, or lunch break possibilities or probabilities, or even right here, you just what time does the workday usually start? I might make that 8. That's more around my time. This is like the average hours worked for full-time workers. 8 kind of makes sense. Maybe we'll go down to 8. Part-time percentage, how many people work part-time. So you can really go down this whole list here, go through your shopping and leisure, your school, your week. Are you doing 7 days a week? Are you just doing an average day? You can kind of slow it down if you want. There are a ton of different ways that you can manipulate kind of how the process works for the Sims going to work, coming home, going out to eat, all that fun stuff, using the businesses. So it just really lets you iron out exactly kind of what should be happening, what makes more sense. So in the case of this, you got 2 vacation months for school, which totally makes sense. Kids are on a holiday pretty much all summer. So usually for me, it's my kids go June to August, but we'll just probably make it July, August. It looks like they only get 2 months to do that. But you can set up when school starts, so university end time's a little bit more. And then you can, how many kids go to school on Monday to Friday. You can say none of them go on Saturday and Sunday, which makes sense. You got high school, college, maybe we'd bump that up to like 20% on Saturdays. I don't know. You just kind of mix it up. Kind of do what works best for you. But this is a very helpful mod in the fact that it kind of really makes it feel more alive, I guess, maybe more real. I guess is why it's called Realistic Trips. All right, while we're in the settings, let's jump to the next one, which is the outside traffic adjuster. As you can see, this is where we get it from the mod manager, so nothing too difficult there. So the mod manager lets you control kind of the dummy traffic, those cars that just pass through your city, or the boats that go down the river and just take up all the space. You can crank it up to like 500% as we jump over to there. So essentially, you can believe this must be, I would assume that would be more like 200%, but I'm not really sure what that ratio is. But essentially you can drop it down to 0, and yeah, just less cars are just kind of going through your city just for the fun of it. I'll probably leave the cars there, but maybe the trains don't really make sense. Maybe 0.1 on the trains, but the vehicle spawn rate, I'm still okay with that. I might even bump it up a little bit. I like to see traffic on the highways, to be honest, but yeah, this is a nice little quick one. Just a little extra quality of life mod. Nothing too big here. It's all done within settings. Yeah, you just set it up in here. All right. Mod number 5 on the list is the zone organizer. Now, this one maybe is a little bit more utilized, I would say, but sometimes it's the small things that just make life So much easier. And then instead of scrolling through all of your menu items to try to find the right density, the right type of house, right type of commercial, no more hunting through that single giant list. Just clean, organized menus so you can build faster. And yeah, this is so when you're in the zones here, it's very easy now to find. So low density, so it's all split up within the densities now, as well. So pretty much everything gets split up. You got the low, medium, high density residentials, and then you have the mixed housing, which is both. And you have low density commercial, high density commercial, industrial zones, low office, high office, and so forth. So yes, it just splits it up much nicer. Now when the medium density does include medium and row housing, but still they all fit on one row, which is wonderful. There's no more scrolling and being like, oh, it's half and half. It's just not very nice. But yeah, this splits it out much nicer, and you just see things better. You don't have to keep scrolling through weird menus and not realizing you scrolled up and then you come back down and then it's going on. Whatever. Anyway, that does lead me into one more, and actually I think that was 4. This is 5. So my number 5 is the specialized industry zone. As you can see here, this is where we get it from the mod manager, and this is a wonderful zoning tool that now allows you to zone specific industry. Now this one, I don't know how many people do use this or if it's that useful. I think it is very useful in the fact that you can just zone warehouses, you can zone individuals. So I want an ore factory to be right here. I can just tell it, build an ore factory right there, and it'll come out with something looking like this. So this is specifically requires metals and coal. I guess coal is technically an ore in the game, but it seems a little weird to me. This one does also store, so they both store a bunch of stuff as well, but it's specific to the industry. So you can place it directly in the places where you're like, I want this to be ore. So what I did over here, I believe this was a grain one. One of these was a grain one. Yeah, this one. So this one I made it look grain warehouse. And this stores textiles. It's just, so you can specifically tell it to do exactly what you want. One other one I did do was this one, which is excellent. So this was a warehouse for the ores, and so essentially these are ores here, so it's storing a bunch of stone just right next door. I will point out, if you do kind of span them down, they won't all grow, because I actually put in a bunch of warehouse ones here for ore, and nothing else is growing. I think just because this is enough here, because it's only half full. All right, a few more extra tidbits that I have also added on that maybe are just some extra ones. One being this extended tooltip. Quite useful. It does just kind of show everything without having to click in. It's a little big on some things, but it does very quickly tell you, oh, that's got 17 employees. That's wonderful. This one has 19 out of 21. It tells you what's stored in there and tells you if they're making money. It tells you all valuable things. It is quite useful to have in there. Just as a quick extended tooltip. Also, in the settings for extended tooltips, you can also just set it to be instant or delayed. So if you don't want it to show up right away, so maybe you want it to hover over for half a second, you can always delay that as well. And this is in milliseconds, so technically if you want half a second, you'd have to do 500 milliseconds. Yeah, and there's one more piece here. If technically you can add a second layout, so all it does is just kind of puts it to the side. I can kind of show you that in action here. So essentially, if you hover over, now it kind of puts things to the side instead of all down in one row, which, isn't too bad. All right, one more extra bit would be the show text trends. I think this is a very useful one. So the money display mode, you can turn to hourly and monthly, but that also, when you hover over it, gives you these trends. So it'll tell you the monthly trend, the hourly income, and the hourly expenses all within the hover. Plus, what it does is it changes what this is here. Instead of showing you how much per month, it's showing the 27,000 an hour. But that is going to be it for the 5 plus extra kind of essential mods that are very useful for all gamers, but mostly ones that just want the extra realism. They take Cities Skylines 2 to a true simulation. You can again find this all on the Paradox mods. Just make sure you check for any dependencies that they might need before installing, and away you go. Thanks guys for watching. I hope you enjoy. Hope the rest of your day is fantastic. And we'll see you later.